up, take my people with me. Together.
Activist Kimberly Jones went viral when she compared the economic inequality black people face to the game of Monopoly.
So if I played 400 rounds of Monopoly with you and I had to play and give you every dime that I made, and then for 50 years, every time that I played, if you didn't like what I did, you got to burn it like they did in Tulsa and like they did in Rosewood, how can you win? How can you win?
Her powerful speech was filmed in the summer of 2020 during the protests across the country after the death of George Floyd. Now, Kimberly Jones is expanding on her video in a new book. It's called How We Can Win: Race, History, and Changing the Money Game That's Rigged. In it, she explains the history and impact of systemic racism in America and how we can change it. First on CBS Mornings, Kimberly Jones joins us. Good morning, Kimberly. How are you doing?
I'm great. Good morning. So happy to be here with you guys.
We're glad you're here.
Now, in this viral video, it connected with millions of people. Why do you think that is?
I think that people like information concise and in a way that makes sense to them easily. And so I think it was something in particular, I got a lot of messages from non-Black people saying, this is something that I sent to my grandmother, to my mother, to my aunt that I fight with at Thanksgiving. And for the first time, things I've been telling her, she got it.
People also respond to anger. We have a natural inclination to pay attention when someone is angry. And you're open in the book about how that was a moment of anger for you.
Yeah, and it was righteous anger, right? And so a lot of times, you know, people think of like, well, if you're being angry, just calm down. You don't need to do that. But I think sometimes in righteous anger, you get to express to people your pain. And I think that's what people saw. Even though they saw an angry woman, they saw a hurt woman. And so they felt that, and they were like, oh my God, the pain is visible.
You know, I like what you said, because in your book you said people who saw you as an angry Black woman do not know you. You said the way you speak is cultural, not remedial. You were educated, yet you were socially unpolished. I would disagree with that, about when you say that about yourself. And you said, hood girls can be heroes too.
Yes.
What is the point that you're making there, Kimberly?
The point that I'm making is that's part of what's happening when we look at what's happening with police brutality. It's a bulldog perception, that anger, that the way that you speak, the way you present yourself, the community that you come from gives less value to who you are as a person. And in particular with colloquialisms and the way that Black people have grown etymology in this nation. And at the time in which people are inventing it, it's told that it's less than. But actually, it has changed the way we all speak. If you say, put your hands together, that comes from 1920s jazz culture. And so I wanted people to understand that it's cultural and that we are the architects of cool. It's not remedial.
And let's make the point, too, that you were making, that poverty creates crime, period.
Yeah,
people need to understand that.
Yes, I tell policymakers that all the time when I'm talking to them and they talk to me about the crime, especially like in my city in Atlanta, and I'm like, you're not gonna have a conversation with me about crime until we have a conversation about poverty.
Now, you in the end of the video, you said that you're lucky Black people are looking for equality and not revenge. And then you write that you wish you would have said equity.
Yes,
why so?
I think primarily because equity is where we are now. And I think we do a disservice to the people who came before me, the people like John Lewis and Dr. King and people like that, to say that progress hasn't been made, which is a universal thing that I hear. But I'm like, they made extreme progress in equality. And what we're looking for now is the change in equity. And so a lot of times, a lot of the decisions, the laws, the things that we're facing that are crippling us are economic decisions. And so it's equity that can push the envelope further now.
But people go, there they go again, 400 years, you're bringing it up, blah, 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 blah. That was then, this is now. And the point you make is you have to know the facts of the case before you can make a comment, and you have to truly understand what has happened in this country.
Exactly. There's no way to nurture empathy in people if they don't know the full story. I think one of the greatest mistakes that we have made, we talk a lot about the miseducation of the Black child, but it's really the miseducation of the American child that has allowed us to live in a way that we don't have empathy for each other, because it's in that education, it's in that knowledge that you can empathize with how a person can come. The one thing thing I say all the time, people are like, are you wanting to fight for Black excellence? And I say, no, I want to fight for Black mediocrity. The median income in Atlanta for a Black family is $17,000. The median income for a white family is $170,000. I want some of my people to be able to be mediocre and still be able to provide for their family. This idea that you have to be Gayle King, that you have to be Kimberly Jones, you have to be a superstar to be successful is ridiculous. A person should be able to just be and be able to take care of their family.
But Gayle brings up the right point. A lot of people say, oh, that was way back when. All these things you're talking about or decades ago. Those people are not alive. But your point is that the legacy of those actions still show up in our bank accounts and our wallets.
They definitely do. And there's so much information that people don't know about when you talk about things like the Freedmen's Bank, which, you know, African Americans lost to the tune of $66 million in the bankruptcy of that bank. That's generational wealth. When you talk about redlining and the way Black America was not allowed to participate in home ownership, and then people say you want a handout, and I'm like, well, from 1920 to 1960, the U.S. government underwrote $200 billion in home lending, and 98% went to white families.
Listen, I want people to know this about you. You were a brilliant, gifted child. Your mother was told that when you started studying Shakespeare. They changed schools for you. You speak Korean. So before you go, could you say you're watching CBS Mornings with Nate, Tony, and Gayle in Korean?
안녕하세요, 감사합니다, Nate, Tony, and Gayle.
Thank you so much. Kimberly Jones, you are the best. We appreciate it.
Sound pretty polished to me.
How We Can Win is on sale now. We'll be right back.